Welcome to the J and K Show. I'm your host, Kay. Listen, we are always delighted when one of those stalwarts from social media comes on board and has an opportunity to drop some knowledge with us. So please, everyone, please welcome Anita Stoudmire. Did I pronounce that right? I feel like I butchered
Yes.
it. I got it
Yes,
right.
you
There
did.
we
You did. Thank you
there we
so
go.
much. Yep. Thank you
Yeah,
so
no.
much. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, the pleasure is ours. I can tell you, it's not hyperbole when I say that you've got incredibly engaging content, and
Mhm.
so it is something that we talk about internally, something that's thought-provoking, and so you can't. It's like catnip. You see one, and then we kind of go to your page and kind of start strolling through. I think that's the
Yeah.
term,
Yeah.
and so it provides multiple perspectives, not just from a woman's point of view, but from a man's
hmm
point of view, and so
hmm
on. So we were looking forward to having you on and then having a chance to kind of unpack some of the things. But for those that are maybe living under a rock or something, can
Yeah.
you take a moment out and just talk about who you are and your background?
I have a private practice here in the state of Virginia where I am living at currently. I am a licensed therapist by trade, and I also have a coaching platform online that is the Better Love Movement. That is where all of my content can be found over on Instagram and YouTube. I have a YouTube channel, Facebook. But I am most passionate about talking to women between the ages of 18 and 35 years old. Here recently, I have heard some complaints about older women not being in the space guiding younger women, that the older women should be guiding and directing the younger women. They should be providing them with a feminine education. And so I realized that about 6 years ago that that was an issue. And I decided to step into that space and to start talking about femininity, talking about what it is to be a good wife, a good mother, how to carry yourself, how to be an honorable, virtuous woman. And because a lot of my content has gone viral, I have a lot of men over on my platform that also look at my content, share my content with either their wives or their girlfriends or the women in their life. So I'm really happy about that. But I have people now, men, women, all races, all ages. But really, my goal, I have a heart for women, the younger women, because they do need older women. They do need women who have walked in that space, been in their footsteps, and now, we're very happy and successful. And, we want to help women to navigate that, especially in this era of feminism. We're in fourth wave feminism. And so women are being fed a lot of lies, and they need someone that can teach them the truth.
Yeah, I love that, and I think the public should also appreciate the fact that you're talking about something that you do professionally, right?
Yeah.
So all of us that are tapping in and listening to this, you get paid to do this, and you're actually putting all of these nuggets out there for public consumption free of
hmm
charge, right? Which I
Yeah.
think is awesome. So you touched on the fact that you talk about a plethora of different topics. One of the ones that I want to kind of lean into a little bit was you had a post about accountability
hmm
coming from women. And what I thought was interesting, the most interesting part about this, that it wasn't just a matter of where we see other content creators, providers, kind of bombastically talk about relationships and accountability or the absence of, but you correlated this to your practice and what you've
mm
personally seen and witnessed. And I'm paraphrasing, but you said how you would have couples therapy or counseling, and then when calling out some of the behaviors of the wives, they would sometimes start ghosting the sessions. They wouldn't
hmm
return. The men would, but women wouldn't. And so this was, and I got a sense that that was a little bit enlightening for you as well,
Right.
too. Can you just spend a moment and just kind of talking about that net revelation for you?
Right. Um, One of the beauties of being an older woman and coming to a lot of wisdom in the last 10, 15 years is I can see so clearly the importance of becoming emotionally mature. That is something that has been a positive in my life. And so that's one of the things that I champion is that at some point in our adult life, we need to become emotionally immature. A lot of people, and especially a lot of women, they have the emotional maturity of a 14 or a 15 or a 16-year-old. There are a lot of grown women that are walking around that are still very emotionally stunted. And so I believe, just based on what I see, based on what I see in the comments and my practice, that women really struggle when it comes to accountability. It is kind of universal, right? Because sometimes people will say, well, is it in this community or this age range? I think it's kind of universal. And if I'm being honest, we've lived in a society for so long where women haven't had to be accountable, right? That we call for equality in our society, but is there true equality? There really isn't. Men are held to a different standard than women. So if men and women commit the same crime, they don't always get the same sentence, right? We know that men work jobs that are more dangerous, men work longer hours. So there really is no true equality, even though we are calling for that. And so because of that, women haven't had to be accountable, right? They haven't had to take a good, long, hard look in the mirror at their behavior. They have also been taught not to be radically responsible for their lives. They believe that, their feelings, so the feelings is a big one. The feelings and emotions is huge. And that is driven by things that are outside of them. Okay. So, you're making me feel this way. That is how a lot of women grow up and they believe that. And they even say things like, well, I wouldn't have cheated if you had been there to make me feel good, or if you had paid attention to me or validated me. Like everything is outside of that locus of control that they have.
Right.
And I find that fascinating because I wasn't raised that way. I was raised to be radically responsible for my life.
Right.
And I had a strong father, and anything went down, he was like, what did you do? What's your part in this? That was the first thing I heard.
Right.
What is your part in this? And what did you do to cause this? Or what could you have done differently? And that's how I was personally raised. But I know a lot of women were not. They either didn't have a strong father in their life, had no father in their life. And, even our society doesn't
Yeah.
hold them accountable. I look at these cop shows with my daughter, these real life cop shows where they have the camera guy following around the cops and them arresting men and arresting women. It's a totally different experience. There's
Yeah.
all this talking, there's all this like trying to, ma'am, and I'm thinking you would have taken this person down if it was a man.
Yeah.
So,
You remind me of that old saying that we shouldn't confuse fair with equal, right? Those
right,
they're very separate. So this women clearly aren't born this way. Based on the way you describe it, it's a learned behavior, right? Who's responsible for it, right? What's is there what's the chicken or egg effect with this? Are
right.
they this way, or they like what in what sequence order is this, and who's ultimately responsible for it?
I think it's a parenting issue. I think it's a lack of a strong father issue because moms, we are by nature, we're nurturers, we're caretakers. And that's why studies are starting to show that single fathers who raise children get better outcomes than single mothers. Single mothers, they coddle, they enable, they caretake, right? Because that's our natural instinct
Right,
is to protect and caretake and, not make things too hard and that sort of thing. Whereas dads are like, nope, it's about accountability, responsibility, it's about work ethic. It's
Sure.
about, taking risks. And so we do need both parents. We need a mother and a father, but a lot of these women don't have strong masculine fathers. They had a father who told them they were a little princess, and they dissuaded accountability, or they didn't have a dad in the home at all. They had mom, and mom is only going to teach what she knows, which is, most women by nature are manipulative.
Yeah. So you sparked a question with that answer. So are you seeing this across cultural lines? Um,
I'm
uh,
definitely seeing it in our community.
okay, more so
I'm
is what
seeing
you're
it in
saying.
our community.
Right.
I see it in other cultures too, though.
So,
I
but what
do.
is the irony of where so many of us in our community talk about or position us with respect to not having as much,
Yeah.
but yet we gain this sense of entitlement,
Yeah.
right? Make that make sense. So, right, I think that's interesting. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you also, in reverse, um, see women accepting that behavior from men, meaning where there is this absence of accountability, or are the demands coming from a woman to a man? The expectations are different. You have to be accountable and so on.
I think men enable the bad behavior, right? Because they were taught by their mothers, that if a woman's crying or, all the manipulation tactics, I think men enable the bad behavior too. And
Right.
what I love about what's happening currently is men are starting to wake up. Men are starting to prioritize having a standard, having boundaries. That's a good thing. And being able to, stand on their square more and say, "Hey, this doesn't work for me. This screaming or name calling or hitting me, that's not going to work for me." And being willing to remove their access, like remove themselves from that person, that's a form of holding that person accountable.
Yeah.
So I like that that's beginning to happen. Men are having more conversations around that. And I hope that pendulum doesn't swing all the way to the other side. Like we have to be balanced in all things. But I like the fact that that conversation is happening. More and more men are setting a standard for themselves, and they're not, allowing the bad behavior from women anymore. And that's a good thing.
Yeah.
That's a good
I,
thing.
I can't imagine, I cannot imagine that you're making a whole lot of friends with some of this content,
No.
whether it's wrong, even though it may be accurate and may be spot on. What's been the reception out there coming back to you?
Well, what I love about my platform is I have a tribe of people, men and women, who are hungry for the truth, right?
Mm.
They're hungry for the truth and they want to be righteous. They want to live righteously. And that's the one thing that I'm always telling people, that before I identify with a gender or race or a religion, I identify with righteousness, right? That's my North Star, is living in a way that is righteous, that is honorable. So some women will say, well, you're not a girl's girl, and the things that you're saying about women, you're a traitor, you're not a girl's girl. No, right is right and wrong is wrong. It has no gender or sex. And then some people, you're talking about the African American community. You're a traitor, you tend to lean more conservative. Okay, again, right is right and wrong is wrong. That's what I will always identify first. Is
Right.
it's like in any scenario asking who is the victim, because sometimes people struggle to identify who the victim is. But
Yeah.
I'm really good at that. I'm really good at knowing who the true victim is.
Interesting. In your practice, often is it typically guiding folks to an answer,
Mhm.
or do you reveal that answer to them? What is the tried and true technique for folks helping folks get to the other side or wherever their outcome is?
So I like to consider my counseling where it started off very traditionally psychotherapy, clinically, and it still is, to the most part. However, here recently, I've started to implement a hybrid. So I do offer coaching as well as counseling, clinical counseling, but I do offer coaching. And what I love about coaching is it does allow me to educate about gender dynamics. It allows me to educate people, just educate people more about masculine and feminine, polarity, gender dynamics. So that's a really good thing.
Mm.
And most people resonate with it, right? Initially, there are some people who will resist it because, again, feminism has done a job on our society and it's taught us to swallow whole this lie,
Right.
that men and women are the same or equal. But when people really think about it and they really process it, they're like, man, that makes so much sense. That's what I hear a lot. People say, gosh, that
Right.
makes so much sense. Okay. So again, I want you to leave the propaganda and I want you to ask yourself when you think about the dynamic between your spouse, right? So the one thing I teach is men do not feel better talking about their problems. They do not feel better sitting around complaining. Women love to complain. They love to talk about their problems with no answer in sight. And so that is how we are inherently different. And it's not a good thing, a bad thing, it just is. And so educating people about that, telling women, hey, you need female only spaces where you can sit around and complain and, criticize and talk about your problems with no answer. But, if you come to your man with that too often, it doesn't feel good. It's a turnoff. And
Right.
and he starts to identify you as a complainer, a criticizer.
Right.
That doesn't feel good. So, but that's again, we've been taught in the last 25, 30, 40 years, that your husband's your best friend and you should be able to talk to him about everything. No, you can't. No, you can't. And again, people laugh at when they're in session too, because they're like, she's not wrong. Like, she's not wrong. Like, I don't want to
Right.
hear it. Talk to your girlfriends about some of this. I
Yeah.
only have a 15-minute, time period to listen to this, but you want to go on and on. And it's
Yeah,
like,
that's it. It's really incredible. I mean, there's a couple of things that you brought up that really kind of you can't help but internalize this and correlate it back to your own relationships and those times. It's just
mm-hmm.
like, wow,
Yep.
I can tell, I feel like as a man, where it sometimes it's just you feel whether it is or isn't, but you just kind
Right.
of feel it's best just not say anything. Just
Yep.
just keep your mouth shut. Just
Yep.
let it go, right? By speaking up or speaking to it feels like it will only prolong things. And we want to get back to whatever our normal is, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's
Mm-hmm.
and it's I think it's interesting that you kind of picked up on that
Yep.
as well. I want to pivot to have a little pivot real quick and touch on um, this kind of, I guess, a phenomenon, if you
Mm-hmm.
will, and you keep me honest. And there was a person that asked a question about the fleeting attraction from men to women,
Mm.
and what's happening with that. It feels like things are a bit different, and
Yeah.
they asked this question, and so I'm gonna read you a quote that someone provided an answer
Mm-hmm.
to maybe what that cause is, why men are seeing some things different. And so um, the respondent spoke to this woman that was asking a question, and the quote was, "When talking about women, we spend so much time adorning the outside of ourselves that we have lost our ability to have inner magnetism,
Mm-hmm.
inner femininity, inner feminine power. Feminine power is not performative. It's not something that you can put on." D- It, Anita, do you know who said that quote?
It might have been me.
It was you.
Might have been
It,
me. I was like, it sounds very familiar.
it was you. The only thing
Yep,
missing from that
that's
was the
it.
sound of a mic drop. You should have put that sound
Yep.
effect in there. So it was like really, well, it's reading it. I was
Yeah.
like, wow, that was very mind blowing. Not just
Mm-hmm.
reading, but hearing you say that. And That's a big deal. Can you expand on that a bit? Because you went on to say a lot more to that, but
Right.
I thought I would love for you to talk a little bit about that.
Right. Well, one of the things that we're seeing now about the femininity movement is women are saying, well, they need healthy masculine, right? I can't be in my feminine until you are masculine. And I have been teaching forever that yes, femininity can thrive in masculine containment, but femininity is not conditional. It is not dependent on a masculine man coming into your world. Like my
Interesting.
world is incredibly feminine, and I don't have a man. I'm not married. I don't have a man. And yet my world is feminine.
Right.
I feel alive every day. I take excellent care of myself. My self care is, I eat well. I move my body. I exercise. I drink water. I love things that smell good. I'm obsessed with things that smell good. And I'm obsessed with beautiful things, beautiful art. I'm obsessed with all things to me that are feminine, creative things. I love animals. I love to garden. I love to cook. And I have a nurturing spirit. So, whether you have a man or not, right? I'm encouraging women like the femininity is inner. You're not waiting for masculinity to show up or even contain you. That's something that it just is. But the truth is, women have put femininity down.
Mm,
And that happened long before their marriages, their relationships. They put their femininity down.
right.
They set it on a shelf. So let's not blame men for that. And it was, again, I'm going back to feminism. You took that hook, line, and sinker that, to be feminine is less than. To be soft and sweet is less than. So we need you to compete with men. We need you to get out there into the workforce and compete with men and do what they do, not knowing that we had our own power. We had our own power in the palm of
Right.
our hand, and we relinquished it.
Yeah. Yeah. So you said it's not performative. You don't
Mm-mm.
put it on.
Nope.
And then, so the part of the quote that I probably should have also mentioned was when you talked about lip injections
Yep.
and hair and nails and so on. And so, which flies in the face of what you're saying, to where you're saying the femininity is from inside of us. It
That's
it
right.
resides there, whether there's a man around, not around, whether you have a wig
Yep.
on, not a wig, right? You show up
Yep.
with that. It's almost
Yep.
like your DNA.
Right.
It's a part of you, or at least it should be. And so I've often tried to understand the pathology or the genesis of
Mm.
how things are. In particular, when you talk about this exterior and putting it on, I can tell you in the circles of brothers, my brothers in Christ, and when we talk about this, I hear more often than not men say they are not attracted
Right.
to these things. Yet we
Mm.
see so many women leaning into these looks and using these things to augment how their appearance and so on. Where's the disconnect? Or maybe there's something more deeper than just the surface, that it's something that's driving women to maybe do that, despite the fact that I feel like a majority of men are not
Yeah.
attracted to it.
No, but women are doing it for other women. Remember, intrasexual competition,
Hmm,
that will always be a thing. It is
interesting.
not about men. It's about competing with other women. So whatever other women are doing, right? Then everybody's going to jump on that. And then when the men speak up and say, "Hey, I don't know where y'all got this from, but we actually don't like it." At that point it's too late. The women are now in competition with the women. They don't even care about what the men think.
Just wow.
Now it's about, well, if she's got it, I've got to have it. If she's getting a BBL, I got to get one. If she's doing this, I got to do it. It's not even about the men. So that's how far gone it is. And instead of, and then of course they're fed the narrative that they don't care what their man thinks, which is totally opposite of what I teach. Right?
Right.
I was on a podcast once, and a gentleman and I were talking, and I said, I don't care about what men think, because he said something about, well, we just want them to care about what men think. I said, can I be honest? I don't care about what men think. I care about what my
Mhm.
husband thinks. I care about what God thinks. Right?
Right.
I can't contain every man. Right? My femininity is mine. It belongs to the husband who I'm in covenant with. It belongs to God, right? I can't care what every man thinks, you know?
Right. Right.
And I'm not saying that in a negative way,
I understand.
right? I have to protect myself. So that's what is so interesting to me about my femininity is everybody, I have to protect myself. So if I let everybody have my femininity, right? That's not good. It's just like men. I tell them everybody shouldn't have access to your masculinity. That's
Right.
why women are out here taking y'all's money and taking your time and taking your muscle and take. No, that is for my wife. That is for the woman in my life. Okay. I can't give it away to everyone because everyone isn't worthy.
I agree.
So I just needed them to understand that. I said, but yes, if I was interested in a gentleman and he said, "Oh, I'd love it if you let your hair go gray, or I'd love it if you wore it like this, or I'd love it if," that matters to me,
Sure.
right? That actually matters to me. And today's women will tell you that don't matter to me. I'm going to
Right.
wear what I want. I'm going to get what I want, and I'm going to do what I want. And that whole my body, my choice. But again, we can't be healthy. We can't come together in a healthy way with that attitude.
Right. Yeah. I think what stands out to me and what concerns me even is it feels trendy, right?
Yeah.
So we're in the 2020s. And so in the 2010s, right, it was all the talk about liposuction, going in there and sucking it out. And something happened in 20 where they
And
started
now we're putting
injecting
it
and putting
in.
it in. So
And I
it
mean, to an awkward, weird, like it looks weird.
right,
That's
right,
the part. I mean, it looks foreign. It
right,
looks alien.
right,
Are we serious? Like, there are
yeah,
some people I see and go, are you serious?
right,
Is this a
yeah.
joke?
Yeah,
That
it,
it's
it really is. It was
crazy.
kind of like, wow. So as we're in 26, so I guess as we, look to go into the 2030s,
Mm,
what's next?
yeah.
I'm concerned that whatever that is, right? We keep
Yeah.
raising this bar, if you can even use that term.
Right.
So a question for me is also marriages are down,
Yeah.
divorces are going
Yeah.
up, and
Yeah.
I'm sure you see this certainly better than I do. I mean, I'm
Mm.
looking, reading stats and reports and so on, but you're there with the people.
Every day I'm
Um,
in the trenches.
yeah, absolutely. Is it truly a new norm? And probably a bigger question, do you see it returning back to more traditional ways of men and women coming together, being married to where that those trends are turned upside down to where we see marriages start to increase and divorces going down? Or is this absolutely the new normal?
I pray that marriage will make a comeback. The marketing department for marriage is awful right now.
Mhm.
We're completely overlooking how ill prepared people are to be married. And so instead of blaming the ill prepared people, we're blaming the institution of marriage. The second thing is, yes, do I agree that the divorce laws, that the family law needs to change? Yes, because many men love to correct me on that. Well, Anita, it's the family law and it's the fact that women are incentivized to leave their marriages. That has to change. I agree. I do agree with that. There shouldn't be no fault divorce. You should be able to identify a specific reason as to why we are dissolving the marriage. And it should be a valid reason, not,
Interesting.
oh, I just woke up and I don't want to be married anymore. I also think it should be harder to get married. I think premarital counseling should be a requirement to get a marriage license.
Wow.
So there I have lots of answers and I talk about that all the time. However, what hurts my heart is we are blaming the institution of marriage when really we need to look at the people in that marriage.
Yeah.
Like most people are not prepared. Even when people come in for my premarital counseling, like I am literally taking them through it. I'm drilling down and I'm like, look, if at any point something gets revealed here and it's a deal breaker, it should break the deal. Do
Right.
not move forward and marry this person.
Interesting.
Okay. The whole point is to bring everything to light. Marriage is informed consent. Everything you need to know, you should know.
Right.
And then you can make an informed decision about marriage. But marriage is one of the most important decisions that humans make with their life. And yet they make it so carelessly.
Sure.
So I don't understand that. I just don't. They're friends with benefits or they're in a situationship. And then after 2 years, they're like, well, I mean, we've been doing this for 2 years. We might as well get married. What? Like, you don't really know this person like that. You what? And yeah, you got a whole percentage of people doing that. No wonder they're getting a divorce. They're ill
Right.
prepared.
Do you see in your practice, is there something that you I guess, increases the success of a marriage? In other words, are couples that are aligned on something similar, be it values, be
Right.
it being being a shared theology, how important is that those lives are their lives are combined, or at least their values are
Mm-hmm.
combined and not running parallel? And part of why I'd say this is this ongoing debate, 50-50. You
Right.
know, you can do what they want to do. I can do what I want to do. I know that's not all of it. Some of it is from a financial and bills, paying
Yeah.
bills and so on. But I also feel like there's this level of parallel lives living independently and
Yeah.
as opposed to being dependent on each other. How did that become a bad thing?
Right. Interdependence is always the goal,
Mm,
to be interdependent. Right. So I'm still a grown up. I'm still capable and competent. And I am making a choice to be responsible for another person. And I want them to be responsible for me. There are clearly all kinds of things I can do on my own, but I'm making a choice to collaborate with another person and be responsible for them, and they're going to be responsible for me. And together, we're better. We go farther. So, yes, 90% of relationship success is in who you choose. And most people do not make a good choice.
wow.
Okay. They don't pick a person that, like you stated, we have similar values, we have similar morals, we align on faith, we align on our political beliefs, we align on children, we align on the role that our extended family will play. We are financially compatible. Yeah. So, that person has character, right? That person has integrity. That person is kind. That person is emotionally mature. But the truth is, when I give people the list of what they should be looking for, it sounds boring. It's not sexy, right? It's not the
Right.
spark. It's not butterflies. It's not 10,000 roses in my car on Valentine's Day. And so that's why they end up in the situation they end up. They put more weight on how a person makes them feel or charm or beauty. And I'm not saying you can't have an attractive person, but they put too much weight on that. Put too much weight on sex. And I keep telling people the sex act is going to take you 30 minutes, maybe an hour. What do you do the other 23 hours in the day?
Going back to when we talked about the relationships, men, women, and the roles
Mm-hmm.
that they play. I saw some content in and around, not on your platform, but
Mm-hmm.
someplace else where we talked about kind of like the evolution and who
Mm-hmm.
owns or who has leverage or owns more of it. So the model essentially is women own the dating market. right?
Mm,
The dating market slash sex market.
right.
As men, we don't have sex until she says we're having sex.
Yep. If
And
you're a
so we,
gentleman, yep.
yep. And so we tend to jump over that bar, do whatever it is that we need to do. We make sure that we're present. She's calling the shots.
Mm,
Then it evolves to relationship, marriage,
mm.
right? And so I've heard men talk about that the pendulum shifts, but the
Mm,
women don't. Their
right.
attitude is still that they have the leverage and that they are expecting men to be the same way, even though men are now feeling like, well, why should I marry you? Give me a reason
Mm,
why I should marry you. The same thing that I was doing to impress upon you, you should
right.
be doing some of that for me because you want to be married, just like
Right.
the way that I wanted to have sex. But often feeling that women are still locked into this position of leverage or power, even though they feel like that they're not. Any truth
Right.
to that, or
It is. It's 100% true.
uh,
And, I hate to sound like an old fogey, but back in my day, we understood that, right? So, number one, women were better gatekeepers.
mm,
We were really good gatekeepers. Okay. And we weren't letting everybody's key didn't unlock our lock.
right,
So, that's the first thing. I find that women today are horrible gatekeepers. Horrible. They brought this on themselves there's no barrier to entry, literally, and I'm being okay. There's no barrier to entry. They're letting everyone enter and then have the audacity to think that they have leverage when it comes to the relationship. That's something you should have thought about before the entry. But in the 70s and 80s, when I was dating, we were good gatekeepers.
sure,
And we, negotiated like, hey, we got to be in a relationship. You have to be my man. You have to be my boyfriend, like
right.
I'm not just, giving this out hand over fist.
So what
And
happened, Anita? Because you touched on something that we talk about, right? So you
mm,
said, hey, 70s, 80s, this is how it was.
mm,
Your mom, which is now this generation's grandmother, it's the
right.
same way they taught that. Why? How? Is there such a disconnect, right?
Yep.
I look at this generation, your generation, and then look at their children, and some folks are blaming you, the parent, for
Hmm.
why the next generation doesn't share your values. So
Right.
what happened? How did it stray so far away?
Well, it's the propaganda. Like I said, the feminism, the propaganda sold everybody a lie that to be a virgin, that this is like mind altering to me now. They see virginity on either side as a flaw, as a defect. Like that blows my mind. That now, if you're a male or a female virgin, that's a horrible thing to be. That's how far away we are from our values and our morals. And yet, you have some red pill people on podcasts saying, well, low body count and this and that. Okay, but you can't have it both ways,
Mm,
right? You can't meet a woman who is saving herself for marriage and wants sex.
right.
Like those two things don't go together. So a lot of women get shamed. The propaganda is teaching them to be free and to do what men do. And it's going to be so empowering. And you're going to feel so enlightened to be out here giving away your body. The only group of people that feminism benefited is men, bad men. Let's not even say men, bad
Um,
men,
oh, please, how do you mean that?
because it allowed bad men, treacherous men, dangerous men access to women for free.
I see.
The advent of birth control. Oh, I can have sex without any consequences. The advent of the abortion. Oh, you get pregnant, you get rid of it. Who skips off into the sunset and doesn't experience any negative consequences?
Wow.
Bad men.
Right. Well,
And
very
even if the woman keeps the baby, he still skips off into the sunset.
sure, sure.
95% of the negative consequences of sex falls on the woman.
Right.
So we need to bring that back.
Right.
We need to help women to understand there is a reason why you should protect your body and your virtue and your mind and your heart. Because if anybody is going to get hurt by this, it's you. It's you.
Right.
Men are not built that way. Men can have casual sex. They can have casual sex with a lot of different people. And they're not crying in their bed at night. They're not wondering when she's going to call. Like they've moved on.
Right.
But see, we're not built that way. Oxytocin is our primary bonding hormone, and that gets released every time we have sex, every time we have orgasm with a man. So our body thinks this man is our husband, and he's a horrible man.
Right.
He's a horrible man. But our body says, you know what? He's my man. He's my
Bonded.
husband.
You've
Yeah.
bonded with. Right. Wow. That's incredible. So last question for me, and it's a
Mm-hmm.
little bit again a little bit of a pivot, but just personally, I just had to ask you this: when you're in the profession that you're in,
Mm-hmm.
and also having relationships, does it make it any easier for you? Because,
No,
or is it more difficult? Because
it's
it
more
seems like
difficult.
you know how the magic trick is done.
I
You know
do.
what to say, but maybe also to inadvertently you raise your expectations, right? Are
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
less patient because like what is that like? What's it like being?
Yeah. Yeah, it can make it harder if I'm being honest. But here's the good news. I get more quality candidates than quantity candidates.
Oh, okay,
Right? So they're kind of forced to. They're like, okay, she's not having the BS. Like, I can't come with all that foolishness.
right,
No, no, you can't. I have peeked behind the curtain. I kind of know, the wizard is not, it's an old man, right? I've seen that. And so, but it brings quality people. That's the
sure,
good news. People who are conscious, people who are honest and full of integrity. And they're like, yeah, I wouldn't think to come with a whole lot of games and all that other stuff. Like, I appreciate you being a quality woman. I appreciate you being a virtuous woman. So that's what I'm trying to sell to women is that it's not going to bring you a whole lot of candidates, but the candidates that will come will be quality candidates.
that part,
Okay.
that part,
So you want to be a good gatekeeper. You want to take your time. You want to be patient, but you want to be direct. Be direct with people. And if something's happening that, just doesn't feel good or you don't feel aligned, you just say that. Hey, a lot of time passes in between our phone calls, or, I've noticed we talk a lot on the phone. We really don't go out anywhere, right? You just be direct with people and you'll find out what they're about. And then if they're not about anything, you say, you know what? I don't think we're aligned. I don't think we're a good fit for one another, right? And you don't make it about them being bad or wrong. You just say, yeah, I just don't think we're a good fit for one another. I am
yeah,
in,
it's
I'm
tough.
very intentional, and I
No,
know,
I love that.
yeah,
I will say that I think the mortals like me
yeah,
walking around, we're not wired that way. I think
right,
the heart wants what the heart wants. We all we've heard that term before.
yeah,
And also I believe that when it comes to matters of the heart, love is the only thing that we get so much experience in, but don't necessarily get any better at. Like I don't know
yeah,
anything else that we
yeah,
that happens to us. The same thing that came into your life and broke your heart at 18 that you swore that would never
hmm,
happen again. You did it at 28, you did it at 38,
yeah, yeah,
48, and it continues to happen over and over. So hopefully at some point we'll learn from that. But I think
yeah,
when there's this kind of emotional, heart-driven connection to it, man, that's tough. That is tough.
yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, but I want to teach people that, you have two hemispheres of your brain. You just have to learn to bring them together. So as a woman, emotion and feeling, that's my primary driver. How do things feel, right? At any given moment. And that is femininity. That's why I'm always telling women check in with your body and really pay attention. Women have an instinct, they have an intuition, and they can tell when something feels off, right?
mm,
But
right.
again, women have set that down. They have started to become more masculine, where, oh, I'm going to use my brain, I'm going to use my logic. But really, the goal is to bring those two things together, right? So it's my feelings and my emotions that marry together with my logic and my rationale. So that's how I make good decisions. I don't just base it solely on logic, and I don't just base it solely on feelings or emotions. I bring them together and I say, okay, there's an attraction here. Let me find out. Let me get more information. I don't just go on, there's an attraction. I need more information before I can make a good choice. And so, yes, you will have to lean on your logic, because sometimes people look good, but they're not good for us. And your logic will tell you that. I even believe your intuition will tell you that. Your nervous system will tell you that someone isn't good for you. You just need to listen, right? Just listen to that.
Anita Stoudmire, wow. Thank you. Thank you. This
Yeah.
is, I feel like I cheated a little bit. This was
Okay.
all intended to bring you on this podcast, but I feel like I had a session. Like,
There you go. Yeah.
I absolutely love this, and
Yeah.
I can't thank you enough for coming on J and K Show and sharing your perspective and incredible insight. So many nuggets for us to kind of pull from and live our lives in accordance to. Thank you. I appreciate you.
Yeah. I have a question for you.
Yeah, yeah, please.
I'm always curious about what men are talking about in their space. Like, what are their concerns when it comes to women today? What are their pain points around dating or relationships? What do you hear?
It's a dater's market, not a relationship market.
Mm.
Sex and interactions are
Yeah.
simple, easy.
Yeah.
Um, uh, there's thought around more IRL kind of
Mm.
dating as opposed to being online.
Mine. Okay.
So there's a lot of online dating and kind of understanding what that is. I think from
Mm-hmm.
a default standpoint, we shouldn't be on there looking for love or relationships.
Mm.
That's not what it was intended for, even though the
Right.
marketing people make it that way. So there is being a bit more intentional about being out and about. But I
Mm.
think also too, there's a narrative to where a man's finances are directly tied to his value, to his,
Mm.
his I don't want to say appearance, but
Mm.
his measurement of a man. So we're creating this kind of narrative around if you don't have money, you can't have me. And
Mm.
so what are men doing? You're seeing more and more
Mm.
men leaving, deciding to opt out of
Yeah.
relationships or flying to different countries where value
Right.
systems are different because we're teeing this up saying, well, if you have money, you can have me even though you don't deserve me.
Right.
And if you don't, just
Ugh.
because you are a mail carrier who can be a great guy, but because
Mm.
you don't make a certain dollar amount that you can't. So you might as well
Right.
just check out of the dating market. So
Mm.
you're seeing some of that. So I think those are some of the things that we talk about. And the last thing I would say is I think we should always be mindful of who's in our circle.
Mm. Mm.
Um, when one of us is having maybe some challenges in their marriage or dating or someone, there's no echo chamber or rallying cry to leave her to go someplace
Mm.
else. And I think that's important because I don't believe that that's generally what the thought is
Mm.
that it kind of more that we're encouraging our brothers to go out to, hey, don't slow down, player,
Right.
keep it going, and that really isn't it. Hey, I'm here
Yeah.
if you need to talk, right? Let's read scripture together. Like
Mm-hmm.
those things absolutely exist. And so I would love to see more of that. So
Yeah.
yeah, forgive me for pontificating on that
Oh
question.
no, I love it.
Multiple things, yeah.
I wanna learn from you all, and find out how I kind of need to move in the space in terms of what to tell women. I'm always telling them that you all don't like all the adornments. Like, so, and again, I hear it
True.
from men.
It's
And I'm
true.
like, hey, they don't really like all of that. They don't want all of that. There are women who actually spend a lot of money on that. And so a man, and most men, I tell women this too, most men tend to be pretty conservative financially. Most men are not flashy. Most men are not, gonna spend a lot of money on a lot of frivolous stuff. Like that's the average guy. And so when they see all that stuff, they not only do they just not like it, they see all this expense running out the door. So, and I know that's me all day. I'm frugal all day. I ain't got no money for I don't have no wig money. I don't got no nail money. Like, I got 401k, I got Roth, I got my investment account. I'm about to buy some land. Ain't nobody got time for that. So like, so I agree with the brothers on that one.
Right, right. I
You
love
got the
that.
$1,200. A woman was talking about is $1,200 for her self-care.
Yeah, I think
No,
I saw that. Yeah.
no.
So yeah, it's a lot. It
Right.
is. It's interesting. And again, I don't, you know, to expect a man to underwrite that when men are saying,
Right.
I don't want all of that. I
Don't
don't
even
need
want
all, I
it.
don't even like all of that.
Right.
I don't need that, right? Like,
Yep.
so who are you doing this for? Because you're not doing it for me.
Yep.
And so not only are you not doing it for me, not only do I not like it, not only do I not want you to do it, now you're telling me I need to underwrite that and pay for it.
Yeah.
Make
It's
that make
crazy.
sense. So
It
I
is
get it.
crazy.
Yeah.
It is crazy. Okay,
Indeed.
well, I appreciate that. Thank you for sharing. Every time I come on a podcast, if there are men there, I ask that question because I want to really understand the mind of a man and help women to understand. I'm always teaching them that. Like, learn men, listen to men,
I agree.
right? Listen. And then, like, really ponder it. Don't just push back because you don't like it. Like, really ponder what it is they're saying. But I see a lot of shifts, and I like where the shifts are going. I do. I actually like it. I'm like, yeah, don't tolerate disrespect. Cut
Right.
it off at the first sign. Don't tolerate disrespect. Withdraw her access to you. Yeah, you don't enable the bad behavior anymore. So that's a good thing.
Love it.
Yep.
Anita, thanks again so very much. You are
Yep.
always welcome, and I don't mean that just passively. You make sure you bring yourself back here,
For
okay?
sure. For sure. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Good deal. Thanks, folks, for watching the J and K show. Tune in I guess next week for another episode. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching the J and K Show.